Hello, I'm John. Welcome back to Must Read More. So today I'm going to do the second part of the fourth shelf on my bookshelf tour. So I'm a little bit frustrated. I just made this. I just finished the whole rest of the shelf, and at around the 25-minute mark, my camera decided to shut off for absolutely no reason and delete everything. Okay, mostly I enjoy making videos, but it can be a real hassle sometimes, but mostly it's fun. So the first one is The Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. I'm not a huge Poe fan. Poe was writing in the 1840s, I believe, and even at the time he was a little bit old-fashioned. There are certain stories of his that I really like. I'm really fond of Morella, and the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. I'm really fond of that one, except for the ending. That's Poe's longest work, and it's really good. It's about a guy who kind of stows away on a ship, and then a lot of crazy things happen on this trip, and I just really like that. And Poe kind of tacked on an ending for it. He wrote most of it, and then he just stopped writing it. I don't know if maybe he just drew a blank and didn't know how to go on. I used to write fiction when I was younger, and I had that happen to me several times, and it was really irritating. I would think up a story and write it, and then I would get towards the end and I would just have no idea how to finish the story, and that can be pretty frustrating. I don't write fiction anymore. I've thought about it, I've tried to, and it just, I don't know. That's another problem when I try to write fiction, is that problem right there. I can think up the beginning and the middle, but the end, I have trouble with the end. So enough about me. This is Concrete Island by J.G. Ballard. This is about a guy who is driving his car one day on a motorway in London, somewhere around there, and it's really heavy traffic in this area all the time, and there's roads all around, and he wrecks his car, and nobody can stop to help him. So he has to live on this kind of grassy area in between these roads and bordered by a fence and a bunch of tires. And there are other people who live on this island, and it's kind of like Robinson Crusoe in the middle of a motorway. Really strange book, and I kind of didn't enjoy this one very much, but it was just such a strange concept. This is The Killer Angels by Michael Shaara. I read this when I was about 18 or 19, I guess. I really enjoyed it. It's, if you've ever seen the miniseries Gettysburg with, oh good Lord, was Martin Sheen in Gettysburg, or was he in Gods and Generals? It was Martin Sheen in Gettysburg, and then Robert Duvall in Gods and Generals, right? And then there was Jeff Daniels and Sam Elliott. That was a really good miniseries, I thought, anyway. But this is a really good book, and it's been too long since I've read this, and I really should reread this sometime. Okay, the next two books are kind of graphic novels for young people. My dad sent me these when I was about 11 or 12. He sent me four. Let's see, The Lord Jim by Joseph Conrad and The Mysterious Island by Jules Verne. He also sent me All Quiet on the Western Front, and there was one more, and I don't remember what the other one was, or I may be inventing that there was a fourth one. He may have only sent me three, but I'm pretty sure he sent me four. And these are all color illustrations. They're really nice, and I don't know if they still make these. I'm sure they do. And the next one is my favorite Alistair MacLean novel. It's Night Without End. It's about a plane crash in Greenland, in the middle of the Arctic winter, there's a weather station, and these guys live in this weather station all through the winter, and it's freezing cold, it's dark all the time, there's nobody for hundreds of miles, and they hear an airplane, and the airplane crashes, and there are quite a few survivors. They have to bring them into their weather station, which is still ice cold, and one of the guys from the weather station goes to check out the airplane, and he finds that the pilots and the navigator have all been shot. So one of the survivors is a murderer, maybe more. And so the guys at the weather station have to take these survivors back to town, and a whole plot develops from that. I really liked this one. It's a slow burn. A lot of people don't really like that, which is, I mean, it's whatever your taste is, but I personally think that of the 5 or 6, something like that, maybe 7 Alistair MacLean novels I've read, this one is my favorite. Now, this is also a really good one that I liked. It's hard to explain, but Alistair MacLean sometimes pulls his punches. He goes just so far, and then he pulls back. And that's what mars most of his novels for me. So this is H.M.S. Ulysses by Alistair MacLean. This is about the crew of a heavy cruiser escorting a convoy through the North Sea in World War II, past German airplanes and mines and submarines, and trying to take cargo to the Soviet Union. And this one's really good. I think it's a little bit over dramatic in spots, a little bit melodramatic even, but Alistair MacLean was a sailor in World War II, and I'm pretty sure he actually did the North Sea run. I think that was where he was stationed, and this is a pretty good book. I don't think it's as good personally as Night Without End, but I think it's one of MacLean's better books as far as I know. And the next books are by Douglas Reeman, who was also a sailor during World War II, if I'm remembering right. The first one is Killing Ground. This is about kind of the relations of a crew on a destroyer, and instead of doing the North Sea run, they do the run from Iceland to New York, and they face the same kinds of problems, submarines, mines, airplanes, and this one's really good also. Maybe not as good as H.M.S. Ulysses, but it's still pretty good. The next one is The Pride and the Anguish by Douglas Reeman. This is my favorite Douglas Reeman novel that I've read so far. It's about the crew of a gunboat in Singapore during the Japanese invasion of Singapore, and the problems that the crew have with each other. They don't get along, they don't like each other. The captain is going blind, and his wife is having an affair with one of the officers on the gunboat, and nobody is taking the Japanese seriously in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they realize that they cannot hold out, and the Japanese just pound Singapore, and so they have to flee, and they take all these gunboats. They're not meant for the ocean, really. They're meant just to be around the coast and in rivers, and they have to take them and go to New Guinea or something like that. It's just, I just really liked this one. I thought it was really well done. Next is Company K by William March. This is a World War I novel told through the eyes of all these different men in this company, including those who were killed, and they talk about how they died and what happened and what stupidity led to their deaths, and I mean, it's all there, the anguish and the terror and the, you know, the false bravado of the officers and all that, and the guys who really didn't do anything, who sat in the back, who went back to you know, the United States and talked about all the glorious things they did, which they didn't do, and it talks about the, you know, how the wounded come back, some of them very, very badly disfigured, and how people treat them and don't look at them as human. This is a pretty rough book. So, the next book is Erich Maria Remarque's All Quiet on the Western Front. I've read this book probably 6 or 7 times. I really like it. It's about Paul and his school friends. They join the German army in World War I and go to the trenches. And they meet an older man who kind of serves as a father figure for them. And of course, you know, one by one they all die. And I just really like this. It's kind of about the you know, the how the youth are lied to, and that the glory of war is in songs and in books. It's not in reality. I like Erich Maria Remarque a lot. This is not my favorite Erich Maria Remarque novel, actually. I mean, I really do like it, don't get me wrong. But his novel Arch of Triumph is, personally, I like it better than this book. Or maybe I like them equally. You know, I mean, I'm really attached to All Quiet on the Western Front. Maybe I like this better as a war novel. And Arch of Triumph is also, in a way, a war novel. It takes place during World War II, but it's completely different to this. And maybe I'll talk about that sometime. I would really like to get another copy of that. I'd really like to get a lot more of Erich Maria Remarque's books, but I never, ever see them, except for All Quiet on the Western Front. I've seen one copy of Arch of Triumph, which I bought. But what I really would like to have is The Black Obelisk and Night in Lisbon, I think. And then there are a couple more he wrote. I never see them. The next book is the roughest book I've ever read about World War I. It's by Gabriel Chevallier. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce his name. Gabriel Chevallier was French, and this is written from the French perspective. It's Fear, a novel of World War I. This is a very violent, rough book. I mean, it's not. It's very much, I think, as it was, and as it was really bad. You know, I mean, living in trenches with rats and corpses and seeing people blown apart and living people reduced to hamburger. You know, it's just, God, I mean, there are scenes in this that have really, really stayed with me that are kind of haunting. And it's definitely a rough book. The next book is by Michael Crichton. It's Eaters of the Dead. This is the novel that The 13th Warrior was based on. It's basically the same plot. The 13th Warrior is one of my favorite movies. And it's a retelling of Beowulf, the same as, no, not the same, but it's a retelling of Beowulf in the way that Grendel is. This one is as seen by a traveler from Baghdad who falls in with these Vikings, and the Vikings are, you know, they're asked to come to this other land to help this kingdom in trouble from these creatures. And they're not really creatures, you know, they're guys. They're men and women who think that they're bears, or they dress as bears and attack. And it's really good. Well, okay, it's a good concept. I've never read a Michael Crichton book where I really liked the writing or anything. Crichton seemed to be kind of an ideas guy, and his characters are pretty cardboard, and you know, he's not a character-driven writer, or he wasn't. He's not alive anymore. He wasn't a character-driven writer. He was more of an ideas kind of guy. I've read Jurassic Park and the Andromeda Strain, and none of them really captivated me, but they're interesting concepts. The next one is The Chosen by Chaim Potok, and this is a really good book about two Jewish boys who meet in New York City in the 40s during World War II. They're both the sons of rabbis. There's one named Reuven, and he plays baseball, and he goes to play baseball against a team of Hasidic Jews, and one of them is named Danny, and Danny hits a ball, and it smacks Reuven in the face, and he has to go to the hospital, and Danny comes to visit him because he feels really bad about it. He didn't mean to hurt him or anything. It's just that his father wouldn't let him play baseball unless he promised to win. And so he would go out there and just hit the ball as hard as he could every time. And it's a really interesting thing because Danny, in the Hasidic tradition, Danny would have to become the rabbi and when his father dies. And Danny does not want to be the rabbi. It's not that he has any genuine problems with his religion or anything. I mean, he does kind of question it. But it's mostly just that he's not suited to be a rabbi. He wants to be a psychologist, if I remember right. There's a sequel to this, and I have it, but I haven't read it yet. I really enjoyed this book. I didn't know what I was going to get when I read it. I just kind of saw it. I was kind of, I didn't know. I'm really glad I read it, though. So the next book is Roald Dahl's James and the Giant Peach. I only read this about 5 years ago or so. It's all illustrated. But I grew up watching the movie. I've seen the movie quite a few times. And I have to admit, I'm a little bit more fond of the movie than I am the book. But I think that's because I started watching the movie when I was really young. And I didn't read the book until I was in my mid-20s. So it kind of didn't, it didn't catch me quite the way the movie did. But it's still really good. I enjoyed it. And there is A Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. I bought this when I was in middle school. I've really enjoyed it. I need to reread it. It's been about 10 years since I've read it a couple of times, but it's been about 10 years since I've read it last. I don't particularly want to read it in this edition again. And it's not because it isn't convenient or anything like that. It's because ever since I bought this book, it has had a terrible smell. It has that musty paperback smell, and I don't know why. Some paperbacks just have a terrible smell, even when they're brand new. This one always has, and it has never gone away. So I've had this book for probably 17 years now, and it still smells. But anyway, the story is great. It's about a professor and his nephew, and is he an Icelandic guide or a duck hunter? I can't remember. I may be getting the movie mixed up with the book. They go down into a volcano and find a pathway to the center of the earth, and it's very scientific for the that time and place. Jules Verne was very, very interested in science, and this is my favorite of Jules Verne's novels that I've read. I've read The Mysterious Island and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but this is the one I like the best. And then we have Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk, and I think that's how he pronounces his last name. I've heard it pronounced several different ways. Palahniuk's the way I've heard him pronounce it, I think. It's been a while. Fight Club is just, I read this when I was in middle school first, and I've read it several times since then. So I do like Fight Club. I don't know, it's a quick read. It's just, I just always really enjoyed it. I like the ending of the movie better, but the book's pretty good. Then we have our last two books, and they are both collections of ghost stories, Oxford Books of Ghost Stories, the Oxford Book of Victorian Ghost Stories and the Oxford Book of Ghost Stories. I'm not such a big fan of ghost stories anymore, and I'm really not a big fan of Victorian ghost stories. I like M.R. James. I like, is it E.F. Benson? Even though his stories get a little bit repetitive. F. Marion Crawford. And there's one story in this that really stands out to me that I remember is called, I don't remember if it's in which book it's in, but it's called The Upper Berth. I think it's by F. Marion Crawford. I'll look that up, and if it's not, I'll show it in the description down there. or maybe I'll run it across the screen. I'm pretty sure it's by F. Marion Crawford. So it's about a guy who takes a cabin on a ship on a cross-Atlantic cruise. I'm not sure what year it is, probably the early, somewhere the 1900, in that area. And every night he has a lower berth, so he sleeps in the lower bed and there's a bed above him. Every night he hears someone come in and there's this overpowering smell of the sea. And somebody comes in and gets into the bunk above him, but there's nobody in the bunk above him, and it's a story about that. And it's I don't know, that one's just the one that stands out to me the most. So that is the end of our fourth shelf here. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you'll join me on the next shelf, and I'll see you later.